This lesson has been designed for the software Silhouette Studio version 4.1.206SS. It doesn't include any instructions for the Silhouette Cameo and instead focuses on explaining the main tool you'll use in Silhouette Studio, tracing. To begin, what do I mean when I say tracing? Tracing is the process of finding or creating an image, then converting it into a cut file in Silhouette Studio. The only time you won't have to trace something is when you've created the cut lines within the Studio software from scratch. More likely, you'll find something you like online and want to copy it, but keep in mind what the copyright use is for the image you find. This video is for educational purposes about tracing only, so I won't go into the laws and restrictions, but this is something you need to consider when looking on your own, especially if you plan on reproducing or selling your creations. There are certain limitations for finding and tracing an image, beginning with file type. Acceptable file types are JPEG, PNG, GIF, PSD, SVG, BMP, and TIFF. You'll see there are asterisks next to the last four file types. That's because I've had both successes and failures with these file types, though I'm not certain what causes them to succeed or fail. More likely, you'll find an image that's JPEG or PNG, since those are the most common image file types around. The next limitation for tracing an image is in the design. Within this category, there are two subcategories. Is your image high contrast, and is it simple enough? The process of tracing takes an image and tries to find the differences in it so that it can create cut lines out of the design. If the design isn't high contrast, the tracing process won't work. A photograph, sketch, anything with shading really won't work for your project. There are ways to make these types of images work, but for the level of this lesson, we're ignoring them. The best kind of image you can find will be black and white. Obviously, white and black, gray and white, red and white, etc., all work, but the reason they work so well is because there is a distinct difference in color between what's part of our design and what's part of the background. To get good results, try including search terms like coloring page, outline, silhouette, clip art, that kind of thing with your search that you're interested in. The second element, regarding the simplicity of the design, is something you want to consider when choosing a material for your design. The three most common materials I use for Cameo are cardstock, vinyl, and heat transfer vinyl, or HTV. If I were to cut my design out of cardstock, I would want to pick a really simple design like this one because cardstock tears very easily when it's cut, and a detailed design is just going to shred rather than cut out and look nice and clean. If I were to cut my design out of vinyl, which is a sticker material, I'd be able to do a slightly more detailed design like this one because vinyl doesn't tear as easily as cardstock, but I wouldn't want to go too detailed still because pieces can get lifted and removed during the cutting or peeling process, and once it's gone from the sheet, it's pretty hard to get it back. The third material, HTV, which is an iron-on material for fabrics, is where I could add a lot of detail because of the weeding process, where you peel your design away from the backing, and it allows for the finer details to not get lost. I still wouldn't want to do something crazy detailed because it would be too difficult to weed by hand, or the details could potentially just get lost in how small they are in the design. This is a good example of something that I would choose if I were using HTV due to its moderate detail level. Alright, so to review so far, we need an image to trace, and it should be high contrast and not too detailed. This one here is great for vinyl, so I'm going to use it as my example. Now that I've found an image I want to trace, I need to save it to the desktop or a folder on my computer so I can pull it into the Studio program. Now I'm done looking for images, so I'll move into the Silhouette Studio software, and it'll open up ready for me to make a new project. Here we see the white space is already 12 by 12 inches, which is the standard size of a Cameo cut mat, so we're not going to adjust anything here. To bring my image into Silhouette Studio, I'll make the window smaller, then drag the image I found from the desktop onto the white workspace. We don't want our image too small when we trace it, so make sure it's about this size or larger so that you can see the detail, but it's not too large to fit on the workspace. If your image is too small and gets blurry when you enlarge it, you might have to find a new image. On to tracing. On the right-hand menu, the fifth option down is a funny butterfly, Rorschach, moldy-looking kind of piece of bread icon. That's your trace window. Click on that icon to open the menu. From here, there's a 4-step process. Number 1, select trace area. Number 2, draw a box around your design, only including the details you want in your design. Number 3, adjust any values you need to. Most likely you'll just need to adjust threshold and convert all the lines in your design to yellow lines. which is why you might have to adjust other values as well to turn them all yellow. This step will take some playing around. It's never the same for two images. And 4, click Trace. There are other options, but for this lesson, we're just choosing Trace. When you move your original image away, you'll see you're left with red lines around the design. These are cut lines, and what they are is what the Cameo recognizes and knows to cut. You can delete the image you've found if you like, because it doesn't affect the Cameo's cutting process. We just used it to get these lines. You'll notice that if you go to click on your new design made of cut lines, you'll have to click on the red line. Clicking anywhere else won't do anything, but if you hover over the red line, you'll see a little gloved hand appear, which means you can click it. If you do this, you can move your design around, resize, and make other more intermediate adjustments to the design, but we're not going to be getting into that in this lesson. So to recap everything, number 1, find a high contrast image you want to trace. Number 2, save the image to your computer and drag it into the workspace in Silhouette Studio. Number 3, using the Trace menu, click Select Trace Area, draw your box around your design, adjust any values to make the lines turn yellow, and trace. Number 4, resize the design so it's ready to be cut out. In the next video, I'll explain how to make adjustments to the design should you want to edit or remove a detail or cut it out of multiple colors.